Looking after raspberries in winter is really quite simple. First of all, we have to wait until the raspberries are completely dormant. So this means that all of the greenery have sucked out of the plant and gone down into the roots. That's where we want to keep it. That's where all the energy is. So then they can come back up in spring. So basically, with my trusty, lovely electric secateurs. So what I do is I find a node, and that's a node there. So that's basically where the new growth comes out from. But I'm going to take it all the way down the bottom and chomp him off there. So I'm leaving about that much of the stem, and I'm going to water it, fertilize it, compost it, then mulch it. And we're going to be mulching the tops of these guys. So let's get into it.
I'm so excited to talk to you about one of my absolute favourite things to grow and care for on our permaculture farm, and that's, like I just said, raspberries. So, not only are they delicious, but they are also incredibly good for you. So let's get right into it. First off, raspberries are such a joy to grow because they are relatively low maintenance. Once you get them established, of course, but even then, you're just basically transplanting runners. And if you can get them local from someone else's garden that's already climatized to your climate, you won't look back. Of course, they produce a bountiful harvest year after year. So we've got in this bed here, hundreds. My guess would have to be maybe 400, maybe even 500. And you can see I've planted them quite close together. So because they are planted so close together, I do have to feed them a lot, and I'll show you that later down of how much they actually do eat and how much you have to actually feed them. But they're thriving. So now, why are raspberries so good for you? Well, they are a powerhouse of nutrition. These little berries are packed with vitamins and minerals and antioxidants that are fantastic for your health. They are high in vitamin C, which boosts your immune system and helps your body fight off infection. And because they're so rich in antioxidants and essential fatty acids as well, they're great for nourishing and protecting your skin. So you can actually use the raspberry seed oil neat on your skin for skincare, for your own DIY. But also, I like to nourish from the inside out. Good food, good skin. So I love to make a smoothie every single morning. I make a smoothie that's great for my menopause and also helps to feed the collagen in my skin, which is what raspberries are all about. So I have a smoothie recipe, and I'll put a link in the descriptions for that because I've already done that video, and you can link and have a little bit of a look. I would love to put some in the freezer, but they just never get there. Gemma picks probably a kilo of raspberries a day in their top production. She'll come home from school, dump her school bag and disappears into the raspberries. And she knows if I've been foraging, she knows where all the best ones are. And the philosophy is, because, this takes a little bit of work. If you don't help, you don't get raspberries. So it's a good incentive to get a teenager out helping. At the moment, Greg and Gemma are still in Queensland, but I think halfway through the video they come home, which is really good. So when it comes to caring for your raspberry plants, there are a few things you need to keep in mind. First, make sure that they are planted in a really good sunny spot. So I've got these guys planted beside my veggies.
How exciting, we were on TV this morning, so 7 Flicks on holistic living, which was awesome. So, but back to reality now. So reality is I've got to pick up all of the prunings. It was a gorgeous day, but I spent most of my morning inside watching the TV. Anyway, so let's get to it.
So with pruning raspberries, we're doing a few things here. We're getting rid of the old canes that are quite susceptible to a fungus. So having it so dense, it's by getting rid of the old canes, what we're going to be doing is adding airflow, which is going to help with any funguses. Now, there are also you can leave the old canes, and you can cut them maybe halfway. But I found this way they're just such easy care doing it this way, and I have very little mold. There is a little bit of mold on some of them, and I'll deal with that soon.
Okay, so that was possibly the hardest part about looking after raspberries, is the pruning side of it and the picking up of the sticks probably. The next one is weeding the whole lot out now and then giving it a really good water, fertilise and a mulch. Winter is the best time to get onto weeds, that's for sure. And all of the weeds that we pull, we give to the chickens. And all of the prunings we chip in our mulcher and put it back on the plant. Good time to get out any weeds that you know are going to make an absolute nuisance for you in spring. Winter is an incredible time to get on top of things. The soil is very dry, especially in this climate. We got snow here the other day. I was manufacturing at the time, so I didn't take any footage of it. Well, it's sleeted, so that's considered snow. It didn't settle. Of course, I try and do a thorough job. Well, I start off really good, and then by the end of it I probably don't do such a great job, but anyway. Oh, the sun's coming out, a bit warm. I had a knee operation and this has just been fantastic. Helped me get up and down. Knee's still a bit sore to kneel on actually. But so I put my weight on one leg. So it's mid-winter and there's babies coming up. You can see the shoots are starting to come up already. It's been so warm. Not a lot of water though. Super important to get all of the leaves off the grass. Super important to get all the leaves off the grass. So we've got grass coming up, the spring grass coming up for the piggies to eat. I just found a passion fruit. Have him later.
So weeding in winter, I think, is the very best time to weed. I actually don't do a lot of weeding in summer. Winter, a lot of the plants are dormant. So you can get right into the soil, you can dig around a fair bit and you can pull out those weeds. It's also getting on top of the weeds now. It's going to set you up for a better spring because everything starts to take off. And if your veggies and your fruit are having to compete with these other plants, the weeds, they're going to be using up the nutrients, they're going to be using up the water. So it's so super important to get on top of them before spring. I do a little bit of weeding in spring, but I really don't need to, not a lot. Because I do such intensive. You can see the weeds are quite big here. This is because this is more like autumn growth when the berries are basically done their job. And yeah, there's not a lot for really, when you think about it, that's 12 months worth of weeds. There's not actually a lot there. And I'm going right in there, getting them all out. I'm going along the pathways as well and we've got, since the fires, we've got this really bad weed that it basically shoots out its seeds on the grassy bit, and the guinea pigs actually don't eat them, and they're starting to come up in the bed. So I'm trying my hardest to pull them out. They're actually flowering now. Gemma gets out with the whippersnipper. And she chops all the flowers off. That's one of her jobs, to stop them from spreading. So we're trying to get on top of them at the moment. Of course, they are an asset. So these weeds are also now winter food for our chickens. So I'll take these over to the chickens and the guinea pigs as well. They'll munch it up. What they don't eat up, we'll compost because it's actually in the orchard. What they won't eat will just get composted and feed the figs that we've got in there. And of course the chooks and the guinea pigs turn it into fertilizer.
Okay, so the whole point of doing so much work in winter, of making sure that everything's pruned back and well weeded, well watered, loads of compost and loads of mulch, is to set yourself up for spring, to set the plants up for spring. They are such heavy feeders. And also you've got worms in there that are eating as well. So, for example, you'll see how high I prepare the bed. So you can see how heavy feeders raspberries are. You can see their roots rising up here. So by the time I finished, the soil, the compost, the mulch is all going to be this high. And I do that every year. So it has eaten, the plants have eaten that much worth of organic matter. So it just shows you how much work, how much energy that they need to feed you. So you have to feed the soil to feed the plants, to feed yourself. So I consider the grass in our veggie and berry patch as like a paddock. It's our fodder for our guinea pigs, and to keep them alive, to keep them healthy. And there's actually weeds that they don't eat, and if I don't pull those weeds out now, of course they'll seed into the beds that don't have the guinea pig, where the guinea pigs don't have access to. So I look after their food and they look after me, because they keep it so beautifully mown for us, and they're fertilizing, because of course these roots aren't just in these beds, the roots are also underneath this soil as well, especially the larger plants. And so the guinea pig poo manure is still feeding the beds, and I'm raking it up as well, and raking up their manure, and I'm taking it over at the moment to the chookies, and because there's loads of fruit trees in there too, so it's just a circular circular farming, regenerative farming. I love it, just keeping it all in-house. And the mulch is all going to be made from the prunings from these guys. Still got lots to do. Lucky, I love it. Now, of course, you can mulch all year round. It's just quite difficult when you saw how big these guys were and how dense it was. It's quite difficult to get the mulch in and around. In autumn they do drop their leaves, so their roots are relatively protected. I do have to be careful. I'm not going to get the mulch onto it this evening, so I will have to go through and put, after I've given it a good water, I am going to have to put leaves on top to protect the roots from all of the frost.
Of course, winter is also the perfect time to transplant a lot of dormant plants. So I just whipped out a berry that I'd whacked into a pot last summer and forgot about it actually. So I've put him into his forever home now, which is great. And doing a little bit of tidying up, a little bit of landscaping around the edges. Winter is just the perfect time to do this, and it will look great for a couple of months now. Look, I just can't help myself. There I am, bung knee, and I'm underneath the lime tree because he needed a little bit of love. He got really badly hit by the fires in 2020. I can't let go. Not yet. He is struggling. I have been knocking the fruit off him for 3 years and pruning him up and feeding him up and watering, and hopefully it will survive.
Full wheelbarrow here, so off to the chooks we go. They'll love this. Look at this, they can hear the wheelbarrow coming. Think something good's coming? Well, it is. Ooh, wait till you see what I got in here. Out of the way. Don't anyone escape. Don't anyone escape. Okay, who wants some treaties? There you go, girls. Ooh. What's in there, hey? Lots of yummies. It's great because all these weeds, they'll pick through all the seeds, and then what they don't eat will just turn into compost for the figs in here. Circular economy, love it. Regenerative farming. Thank you to everyone who put orders in over the weekend. It's wonderful.
Just giving everything a bit of a water, giving those raspberries a bit of a water, a bit of a fertilise as well. And I'm just spreading over just a light smattering of leaves and a little bit of mulch, just because of that root rise that I showed you earlier. And without the leaves, with the frost, those roots are going to be quite perceptible. So pop a little bit of leaves over the top. Protect them.
So I want this mulch to stay on top, because if the mulch stays on top, it's going to get too hot and it's going to actually burn those roots. It's okay for a little while, but not for a permanent solution. You don't want to put the compost on top. I'm pulling it right back to the sides because this is where the weeds come up the most, on the sides. So that's going to actually help to suppress, because it's quite hot. Here comes Greg and Gemma with more of my Fergo. Here it comes. Gemma driving. Oh, nice lot of Fergo. Very nice. So you can see I've now pushed back all of that mulch and all of the leaves back up against the wire. So this way it's going to help suppress those weeds in spring and summer. Now you can really have a good look, and I can really get in there and get all these little weeds out. And you can also now see all of these roots that have come up. Now this is called the root rise. And you can see how dry the soil is. Look, and I just push that back a little bit and you can see all the roots. So, and that's because they're such heavy feeders. So now I can give these a really good water, and I know that these roots are going to be getting the water. With the mulch on top, of course, having it so dry, it's like dry fruit really, isn't it? You water the mulch, this is going to absorb the water first, and then it's going to go into the soil. So the mulch will rob the water first, and that's why it's such good insulator as well from the water being absorbed from the soil, because this keeps it nice and damp. So before we mulch, you really got to get this powdery soil nice and moist. So I'm going to give it a good water, and I've also, by doing this, I can have a really good look at the canes, and I've noticed that up here, mold happening. You can see that there, a little bit of mold happening there, a little bit on the soil there, and that's basically because, oh, so you can get that little weed, and that's because this has been these are underneath the tree, and it's the mold coming from the leaves. There's a little bit on that guy as well, you can see there. So after I water, I'm going to come through with my white oil and give that a hit before I put the mulch on.
I thought it was like a snake or something.
So mean. Where's me bloody spade, Greg? Have you nicked me bloody spade?
Well, is that a potato?
Huh?
I think there's a potato.
Oh. Put him in the potato bed, pull him up. Where's the spade, Greg? Chili.
Actually, I haven't
Oh my
here
god,
to,
that's a potato.
Come on.
Where do I put the potato? But isn't that full of stuff? Oh no, it's not.
Chili, come on. The good thing about having the mulch up against the wire too, it acts like hungry board, so I can put more compost in. So you can see how high I'm putting the compost on. So that's, there you go, that high. So that's that high up to my ring, a little bit of weed in it. And by next winter, it'll be back down that low again. That's how hungry that they are. Got to feed them.
Gemma's spraying the white oil there to help with the fungus. It's an easy recipe. All it is oil and detergent. I'll put the link to the recipe on the descriptions.
We are going to get the first guys. Is Dad allowed to have any of these because he's not helping?
Of course not.
No, no, it's the guy because he's not actually helping.
That's a little bit not fair.
Eh?
That is a little bit not fair.
You're not helping, so.
It's the rules, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't help, you don't get. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting mulch on top of the watered in compost. So this is not chipwood, this is actual mulch from our garden. So these are all of our prunings from our orchard and from these guys as well. They're raspberry prunings, there's fruit tree prunings in here, even there's a bit of lemon tree prunings in here as well. We mulch it all up, mix it all up. And what this is going to do, I'm putting it on quite thickly, as you can see, on quite thick. It's going to act as a blanket. So a blanket over the top of the raspberries and a blanket over the top of the soil, the compost. And what that blanket will do is actually retain the moisture. It will help to keep it nice and snuggy in winter for worms to get in there and eat and create beautiful liquid fertilizer and turn that compost into food for the plants. And it will also, all of the vitamins and the minerals that the plants actually had in them will break down and go into the soil. So, and this I won't actually do much more to these beds, to the raspberries, until maybe Christmas. And at Christmas time all I'll be doing is eating raspberries. Won't have to do much. If it's a really super dry summer, I'll probably have to water a little bit, but not much. This is setting ourselves up for an amazing spring and an easy care summer. So we do most of our work in winter. And why wouldn't you? Look how beautiful the day is. I just love working in winter and I just love harvesting in summer.